Welcome at another episode of Captain Help. Today we're taking a special kind of trip, not through space but through something far more mysterious. The generations we live with every day. Baby boomers, Gen X, Millennials, Gen Z. They work together, live together, date each other, raise each other, and somehow still surprise, confuse, and occasionally frustrate the living daylights out of one another. But this episode is not a history class. It's about understanding. Understanding why someone reacts the way they do, why something seems obvious to you and alien to someone else, why one person sees a problem and another sees a crisis. Generational friction doesn't come from personality flaws. It comes from different worlds shaping each generation's emotional, social, technological, and economic wiring. But first, a quick Captain Help disclaimer, because I don't want angry emails either. These are trends, not absolute truths. Year ranges are guidelines, not biological destiny. And most importantly, you're born in a generation, but shaped by the world you grow up in. Your teenage years, education, first jobs, those do the molding. And yes, your parents play a role too. We'll get there. So this episode isn't a label maker. It's a lens, a way to look at people, including yourself, with more curiosity and compassion. Ready to meet your travelers? First generation, the baby boomers, born between 1946 and roughly 1964. Raised in stability, shaped in a slow analog world. Emotionally stoic, socially physical. Baby boomers grew up in a world without internet, smartphones, GPS, or digital noise. If you wanted company, you walked outside. If you wanted help, you knocked on a door. If you wanted information, you opened a book. Their parents had survived war and scarcity, so the emotional climate they grew up in was, be strong, don't complain, just get on with it. Values shaped by that world? Reliability, hard work, structure, loyalty, patience. Boomers weren't taught to talk about feelings. They were taught to handle feelings. Their social world was entirely physical. Kids running around, solving arguments, making alliances, learning patience, learning conflict resolution without even realizing it. Their emotional style today often looks practical, steady, or stoic. Because that's what the world rewarded when they were young. Their parents survived war and scarcity, so they passed on. Work hard, build security, follow the rules. Boomers listened. We come to the second team, Generation X, roughly born between 1965 and 1980. The independent generation, emotionally private, socially self-reliant. Gen X grew up with analog freedom and digital disruption, but also economic uncertainty with high unemployment, high inflation, and low economic growth. Their childhood was cassette tapes, microwave ovens that felt like magic, climbing trees, and coming home when the streetlights flicked on. Then, suddenly, computers and the dial-up internet arrived. Meanwhile, both parents were working, often long hours. So Gen X kids became independent early. Pack your own lunch, solve your own problems, manage your own time. Values formed: self-reliance, pragmatism, efficiency, skepticism. This produced an emotional style that is calm, grounded, private, and self-contained. They don't share feelings easily, not because they don't have them, but because they grew up managing emotions, not expressing them. Socially, they were trained by the world itself. No phones, no tracking, no adult supervision. If you had a problem, you figured it out or waited until someone came home. They are the quiet emotional engines of many families and workplaces today. Next team are the Millennials, born between 1981 and 1996, raised with possibility, shaped by collapse, emotionally reflective, socially dual world. Millennials grew up during the explosion of opportunity. The internet opened the world, social media created new identities, and globalization promised endless choices. Parents encouraged them to find their passion, explore their feelings, pursue meaningful work, a major shift from earlier generations. Then the 2008 financial crisis hit just as they entered adulthood. The floor disappeared, stability evaporated, housing prices soared, careers became ladders with missing rungs. Emotionally, this made millennials introspective. What do I really want? What matters? Who am I in all this? Socially, they lived in two worlds: offline friendships and online personas, a blessing and a pressure cooker. And here's a crucial twist in our story: the rise of the curling parents. You know, like the sport. Someone runs ahead with a broom, sweeping the ice so the stone glides smoothly and nothing gets in its way. Many Gen X and millennial parents became precisely that. Not because they wanted to control their kids, but because their childhoods had been tough, lonely, or emotionally sparse. So they vowed, "My child will feel safe. My child will be understood. My child will not struggle the way I did." A beautiful intention, rooted in love. But the emotional side effect? Younger generations grew up with more protection, more support, more adult involvement, and therefore, less experience with boredom, less experience with frustration, less practice with failure, less tolerance for uncertainty, more emotional awareness, more openness about mental health, more expectation of support. Curling parents didn't make their kids weak. They made them emotionally literate, but sometimes less emotionally calloused. And this sets the stage for the emotional world of Gen Z. Generation Z, born between 1997 and 2012. Born digital, emotionally open, stimulated, overwhelmed, future anxious. Gen Z grew up in a world of constant stimulation, infinite content, instant feedback, non-stop comparison, global crises on live stream. Their brains developed in high-speed environments. Their emotions developed in families that emphasized boundaries, openness, authenticity, and mental health. Emotionally, this makes Gen Z expressive, self-aware, honest about stress, quick to acknowledge overwhelm, attuned to authenticity, anxious about the future, easily overstimulated, and deeply connected to others online. They're not fragile. They're responding exactly as you'd expect from someone raised in a world that never switches off. Baby boomers learned strength without complaint. Gen X learned independence without support. Millennials learned reflection without stability. Gen Z learned openness without quiet. Nobody is wrong. Nobody is spoiled. Nobody is tough or weak because of their character. They are shaped by the world, by timing, by childhood, by parenting, by technology, by economics, by emotional climate. Humans didn't change, their environments did. When you understand the world someone grew up in, you finally understand them. Suddenly, the things that annoyed you make emotional sense. And emotional sense makes room for kindness. In the next episode on this topic, we put all these generations in the same room, the same home, the same workplace, and watch the sparks fly. And not just the funny kind. This was Captain Help. Each episode of Captain Help explores how we think, live, and pretend to transcend. Calm reflections with a hint of irony and a lot of sense. Captain Help. Smarter every day in every way.